Time for our executive director and recent, not the newest, but very new Rotarian for Raine, Howe is going to come and speak to us about what's going on in the Klaus Foundation, which she's been in for many years. And would you come on up? It's so great to have you. Let's give her a big round of applause. And we'll make it fun. This is, to get your full badge. You want to count this as part of your craft talk, or you want to do craft talk to be separate? What's your thoughts?
Craft it up a little.
You'll be crafting today? Okay. Well, come on up. I'll get your slides.
Picture helps. Okay.
If you want to sit up in the front, fine. If you want to go and walk
I
around.
think I'll just be the podium person.
Okay.
Like that. So, thank you for having me. And this picture is when I was the executive director, thank you, of Arts for the Schools. And I've been an executive director for most of my professional career. I've worked in organ and tissue donation. I've worked for hospitals on capital campaigns. I've worked in North Lake Tahoe as bringing arts into schools, because as many of you know, it's a very geographically isolated area. And kids really don't have exposure to live performances. People don't come up there. And a lot of the kids, 44% of the population up in North Lake Tahoe is actually living below poverty lines. So we think of it as a tourist spot, but the people who actually live there have a really hard time getting by. So it was a labor of love working there, and that's actually where I was when the phone rang in 2012. And it was October and it was snowing, and there was a woman on the other line. Her name was Maridel Moulton, and she said, "Hi, I'm a headhunter, and we are looking for a new executive director for the Klaus Foundation. Would you be interested?" And I had been in Truckee for 12 years, and I was interested. I had promised my son that we would stay there until he graduated high school. But I was also getting a little tired of shoveling, to get into. It's one thing to visit there, but when you're there for years and years, and you're feeling kind of like a pioneer woman towards the end of it, I was ready to get off the mountain and return to this area, which is where I lived before I moved to Truckee. So the foundation took a very long time with its candidacy, and I felt very fortunate that they hired me in March of 2013, and I've been there ever since. I've always had a very close connection with the foundation. I lived in Nevada when Polly was abducted. My daughter is the same age, was born the same year as Polly. We lived in an old house, and the window didn't shut all the way in her bedroom. It was kind of an old farmhouse. And I ended up nailing chicken wire to the inside of that window because I just felt so, like so many people, just so vulnerable and terrified. Most of you are probably familiar with the Klaus story. She was having a summer party with two of her best friends on October 1st when a stranger entered the home and tied her friends up and took Polly with him into the night. And the search for her lasted for 62 days. Thousands of people showing up, maybe even some of you in this room, looking for this little girl in the hopes that she would be found alive. And as we all know, the ending was tragic. It really broke the hearts of, I think, this community. When we have booths, people come up to the booth and tell their very personal Klaus story, where they were, what they were doing, when they learned she was kidnapped, and the same when they learned that she was not found alive. So, this community really is responsible for the fact that we have a Klaus Foundation, and it's because of the way that the foundation, that this community showed up to search for one of their own was really unlike anything that had been seen in the country. More people searched for Klaus than looked for the Lindbergh baby, which might be one of the most notorious kidnappings in our country's history. So, that's kind of the past. We've been here for 25 years. There's some handouts on the table, talks about many of the milestones that we've reached during our time. And really what caused the foundation to be founded was because we had set up an 800 number for a tip line. If anybody had seen Polly or someone looking like Richard Allen Davis, there's posters all over, call, with help. And when the case was over, that phone number just kept ringing, and it kept ringing because there were families all across the country who saw what this community did to search for Polly, and they wanted our help in looking for their missing child. And so that was really how the foundation was established. Last year we reached the milestone of finding 10,000 children. And the parallel, and what I'm really going to focus on today, which is more about prevention, the parallel between what happened to Polly and what happens now is Polly was in her very own bedroom. I mean, that's part of the horror of this story. She's in her very own bedroom. How could she not be safe there? But now we have kids that are in their very own bedrooms, and they are using their social media, and they're online, and they're talking to people that they don't really know. Many of them are adult predators, and they convince vulnerable children, and it happens to a larger scale to foster children. And they groom those kids sometimes for 6 months or even a year and talk them into taking a bus to LA, I'm going to make you a model, I'm sending a taxi cab to your school after school, just hop on in and we're going to take off into the sunset, and I'm going to love you and care about you for the rest of your life. And these children typically end up being sex trafficked. This happens right here in Sonoma County. Does anyone want to guess how many kids go missing in Sonoma County every year? Just take a wild guess.
1,500?
1,500? Anybody else? Okay, well, I'm glad it's not 1,500, but it's still too many. It's 800, about 800 kids. And the problem is that because of the way that the children are disappearing, they get listed as a runaway. And as soon as somebody's listed as a runaway, the police do not search for that child the same way that they would if they knew the circumstances leading up to that child's disappearance. So a huge part of what we do is we have peace officers, standard of training, certified instructors that meet with new recruits, new law enforcement, and talk about this very specific issue. Talk about when you're doing your missing persons report, these are the flags. Can you look at that child's social media? Can you get a hold of that phone? Can you get a hold of the phone records and see who that child was talking to more to leading up to their disappearance? So we have found kids on Backpage, when Backpage was, before it was shut down, on Craigslist, adult sites. We have a response department who have over 20 years each of experience in looking for missing children. And we work very closely with law enforcement and trying to help them to understand, change your mind. It's not a runaway. Think of it as an online abduction, which is a term that is a new term, but entirely appropriate. So that's all the bad news. I'm not going to spend all this time talking about this very depressing subject, but it's something that we all need to be aware of because it's real. So what do we do about it? We have been funded by 2 organizations. One is Speedway Children's Charities, and the other is actually the Rip City Riders, which are a motorcycle club that look kind of dangerous, but they're really like Boy Scouts that like to wear outfits. And go around, they do, fundraising, and we were lucky enough to get a grant from them last year. And what we do is talk to middle schools. We went to almost every middle school in Sonoma County and some freshman schools last year and reached over 4,000 kids. And we talked to them about the dangers of being online. And have a very real conversation with them, which clearly makes the audience uncomfortable because we're talking about things that they are involved in every day, and you can just almost see that little light bulb go on. It's like, oh, I'm doing that. Oh, I don't really know who that is. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of the presentation today so that you could get an idea of what we're helping our young people to understand so that they can stay safe. And if we could avoid even one online abduction, then we've done something powerful. So Michael, how is this the
button on the right should advance.
Get us to the next.
Is working. Why don't you do a document and I'll see if I can get it. There it goes.
Is it? Okay. Which one?
This one.
This one like that. Oh, the right one on the right. Gotcha. So we've talked about who we are, and now we're talking to the kids about what we mean by posting or being online. You're not alone. If anything we discussed today has happened to you, there's help available. And without fail, every time that we present to a group, we always have kids that come up afterwards and ask for help. How do we set our privacy settings? How do I block a number? Oh my gosh, I sent an inappropriate picture. What do I do about that? And we have a lot of resources for those kids. So we ask them, how many of you send pictures via text of your friends and family, post pictures online, receive pictures that are mean, offensive, or sexual? They all raise their hands. Have you ever been sent a message online or through text from someone who you don't know in real life? They all raise their hand. Almost all of us have, and this is why we're here. And we remind kids, once they post something online, anyone can see it. Even if they take it down, if somebody has taken a picture of the picture on their phone, then they have it, and they can do whatever they want with it. So your information is not private. Once you put it out there, it's for anyone to do anything they want. And here's a good example.
I didn't know you were going to be having audio, so I don't have audio hooked up.
Oh, we don't?
Why don't you go to the next one and I'll see if I can get that going.
Okay. Well, this is pretty good actually with visuals. It has good music to go, but basically they're doing a comparison. Once you put something online, it's as though you went to your school and you posted a picture of yourself, in the hallway. And every time you try to take it down, it keeps reappearing. And everybody in your school now has a picture of it. It's just a way of getting the kids to think about this in a different manner. She's never going to get that picture back. That picture's never coming down. And even the creepy janitor will get the picture. And we always tell kids, not all janitors are creepy. Some of them are really nice. So screenshots, again, this is when you take a picture of a picture, and even if you only put it up there for a minute, anyone can take a picture of it and have it forever, do whatever they want with it. Okay, why this matters, unintended consequences. So, here we go. We have a girl who's dating a boy, and he says, send me a hot pic. And this is interactive with the kids. They actually can plug into their phones and they answer yes or no. They also ask what that is because it's such an old phone. I have to explain. We're going back to Star Trek Generation 1. But, it's all about making good choices. Now, what happens when you do send the picture to your boyfriend who promises, I'm only going to look at it. I'm not going to share it with anyone, I promise. So, we're dealing with peer pressure too. So here the guy gets the picture, he's looking at it, and he just can't help himself. He's gonna show his friends. Again, this is normally interactive. But, once she sends that picture, or they have no control over what happens to it next. So now all of his friends are going to get it, then all of their friends' friends are going to get it, and it's going to, it's going to be viral. The decision's out of your hands. Once you send that picture, you're done ins. I'm gonna go on to the next one because I think that this shows that really well. So this is showing all the people that get it. Of course, you're embarrassed that your friends at school are getting it, but they have to realize that, it goes to your parents. Your parents can end up seeing it. Your siblings, your grandma, and your little brother, I mean, it's something that kids just don't think about. 14-year-old brains, it's probably why they're supposed to wait till you're 18 to make bigger decisions in life. Okay. So, selfies and sexting. This is another thing that happens, and I'm going to move forward to sextortion. So, don't worry, we're not going to show you anything inappropriate. You're just going to get the idea here. But what happens to some people when they're sending an inappropriate picture online to somebody that they don't know, that person's pretending to be somebody who's like 17 years old in a neighboring high school. So these predators send out friend requests. They look for tips that are on Facebook or whatever that say, I hate my mom, I can't wait to get out of here. And that is just like, oh yeah, I'm going to send her a friend request. So she's sending him these pictures, and now he's threatening her. If you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to send this out to the world. And, again, with young kids, they're not measuring the choice of not responding to this predator the way that he wants them to. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want anyone to know, so it just goes on and on and on. So what we want to do is tell kids, first of all, never do it. If you have done it and somebody is trying to extort you, that's against the law, it's illegal. And to go to the police, go to an adult that you trust. If you don't have a parent at home that you trust, go to a teacher or a friend of the family, and they can help you. And we can help them. If they call us, we can lead them to all the right places. So I talked earlier about how some kids that are lured online do become victims of sex trafficking. It's very true. The average age is between 12 and 14 years old. These are some key trafficking facts. And then we ask the kids to just kind of look within. Do you feel misunderstood? Do you want more independence? Do you like new things? Do you want a new boyfriend? Do you feel insecure? Are you fighting with your parents? Sharing emotional information about yourself with people that you do not know puts you more at risk. We talked to them about a real life story that we had. We had two girls, Carrie and Gina. They were from Kentucky, and they were talking to someone they didn't know all the way in LA, who said, "You two girls are beautiful." He sent them bus tickets. Luckily, when they went missing, their parents called the Polyclass Foundation, and we were able to put flyers on the entire Greyhound route all the way to Los Angeles. And when they got to LA, the police were waiting for them. So, they were spared what many, quote, runaways that are really online abductions are not spared from. So, talk about how traffickers trick us, promise to take care of physical needs. It happens to boys. It's about 80% girls and 20% boys that this happens to. A note about running away. These are some resources. Make a plan if something happens. If you do end up in a bad situation where you have left your home, don't meet up with someone that you only know online. If you don't know them in real life, you don't know them. These are just all the tips that we provide for them. The other thing that we let kids know, and especially boys, is that the Justice Department is taking the sex trafficking of minors very seriously, which is something that we want them to do, but they have cast an incredibly wide net. So if you're a teenage boy and you've asked your girlfriend to send you an inappropriate picture, and then you're sending it to other people, you are distributing child pornography. And we actually have 2 boys that were juniors in high school in Sonoma County that were arrested for this crime. And they will have to be listed as sex offenders for the rest of their life. So when they go apply for a job, go apply to get an apartment, anything, it's going to come up, and they will not have the chance to explain, hey, I was just a stupid teenager, I asked for this picture, I sent it to friends. You don't really get the chance to explain. It's just going to come up that you're a sex offender. So by now we have children terrified in all the right ways, because they're all realizing, that they're, not all of them, but many of them are involved in this behavior, and that there's serious consequences to it. Don't forget, it's never too late to start over online or in real life. Be fearless. And then we have a teen resource card that's on all your tables. And like I said, we have kids that come up to us and say, what do I do? I've been talking to the stranger. They're asking me to send me these pictures. And we have a number of avenues for them. Usually we start out with their school counselor and have them talk to them and help them to navigate what adult do they trust that they want to talk to about the situation. And it just, the internet's a double-edged sword. We use it a lot to help find kids, but unfortunately it's used a lot to lure children, out of the safety of their own homes. And that is the parallel that we give to Polly's case. Literally out of her own bedroom. We don't really think of it as a stranger abduction, but in many ways it is. It's just a different means of getting your hands on a child. We're expanding our program to Raine County schools. If there's anybody in here who has a child or grandchild that's in a middle school and you'd like us to come to their school, please get a hold of me. We never say no. The funds that we have don't entirely fund the program for all the middle schools in Sonoma and Marin, but we would never turn a school down. So think about that. If you know anybody, if you know any teachers, it's a highly effective class, and once we've been to one teacher, a lot of the times peer-to-peer exchange happens, and then their colleagues call us, and they always ask us to come back the next year because they recognize how important it is. So prevention is, takes $1 of prevention for $35 to try to help a child once they've experienced this kind of trauma. So we're really, we're always going to look for missing children, but we're focusing much more on prevention these days, and it works. So does anybody have any questions? Chris?
Yeah, with all the classes that you do, you get a lot of people, not a lot, I'm not sure how many people talk to you. How do you follow up with so many of those leads, and how do you follow up with the right people?
Oh, you mean the kids
Yeah.
afterwards? So we basically pass them to their school counselors, because it's really, they're in a better position. They're going to see those kids every day. We're going to provide them with the resources and have a conversation. These are the best agencies to call. This is the local police department to call. And if that school counselor has follow-up, they need some more support, then they're always welcome to call us back. But that's pretty much how we work it. Yes?
I have a friend who's got a 4th grader who loves to play the online video game Fortnite,
Mm-hmm.
and all his friends do, and mom is really at a loss as to how she should be proactively working with him. Because while they're playing video games, they're talking to people all over the place, they know who they are. Do you offer any kind of support, or where would she go to get some information on how to talk to her son about that?
I think that the best thing that a parent can do is be incredibly nosy. And as parents, we've kind of gone through all of these different phases in parenting. I was a teenager in the 70s, and parents wanted to kind of be my friend. It's like, no, kids, they need parents. They got plenty of friends. And sometimes you're going to be unpopular as a parent by limiting the amount of time that a child can spend playing those games or being online. But make sure that all of their privacy settings are on lockdown. They shouldn't use their real name. Usually they use, some kind of a fantastical name. But never share personal information. Not where you live, not what school you go to, nothing. I mean, whoever especially because a fourth grader is so young, he should set up his profile as though he's from Mars and he doesn't talk to anybody about any of his personal information. And that's the best advice that you can give your friend. But if she wants to call, I can put her in touch with my colleague, Jenny Thompson. She's been with the foundation for years and is also a former FBI investigator. So, she can come over and scare him. Sorry. It's like we're wanting to keep kids safe, but sometimes the best way to do that is to put that little seed of fear in there. Yeah, because it's real. Michael?
Yes, now, Danny Fisher, police chief, I think he was on your board of directors.
He still is, yeah.
Yes, you've had some great ideas in terms of the future for Poly Clash or Poly Class building. Can you give us just a thumbnail on what your plans or your goals would be?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. As far as programs go, we're going to continue to focus on prevention and grow our prevention of the, our response department and searching for missing children. I think you might be talking about an actual building.
Your center is over off on Western, is where it's at?
Yeah, well, we're actually located in a house. We have a home occupation permit. It's on Howard. We bought it in 2014. And that's where we all work from. And it's a great little spot. The address isn't publicized because it's a home occupation permit, and it's also a safety issue. If anybody wants to come visit me there, then I will give you our address. Otherwise, we don't publish it. Yes, Judy?
Are Polly's parents involved at all in the foundation?
That's a great question. So initially, they both were part of founding the Polyclass Foundation. 2 years afterwards, Mark Klaus wanted to take the foundation in a bit of a different direction and wanted to... Does everybody know who John Walsh is from America's Most Wanted? He really wanted to create a program like that was focused more on missing children. And the majority of the board did not agree that that was what they wanted to have happen and didn't think the people that had donated money to the foundation wanted their funds used that way. So he left and he started Class Kids. And he does grid searches, and he's very public. You'll see way more of him than you'll ever see of us. Culturally, we're very quiet. Sometimes we think we're a little bit too quiet. We're in the middle of a PR campaign that we hope you're seeing some of our... Has anybody seen our bus backs or our billboard? Great. Thank you. We're on the radio more because people do need to know what we're doing, that we're still here and we're quite busy. Eve is on our board as an emeritus member, and she's culturally pretty quiet, but we're very, very glad she's here. One thing worth noting, that Eve's request has always been that we remember Polly in the living, as a living, hopeful child. And that's why we no longer have community gatherings around the period of time in which she was abducted, which was in October, and then her body was found in December. We don't do memorial services and things like that. It's not because we're not honoring Polly and remembering the way that she was taken from us, but that's not what her mom wants. Her mom wants her to be remembered as a living child, and we really want to honor and respect that. And I can't talk about it right now. I think Michael's kind of alluding to it, but we have a really incredible opportunity to finally honor Polly in a meaningful way that celebrates her life. But we're in the middle of talking to the city, and until January 28th, I'm bursting at the seams, but I can't say anything about it. So that's why you got this presentation instead today. But next time, I'll have some very exciting news.
Right. Well, stay tuned. There is more. Right?
We talked about different presentations. I mean, this is this the craft talk of all craft talks? Thank you once again. Great job. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, well with that, let's see. I just want to say once again, Frank and Sarah, thank you for coming down. I hope you enjoy Petaluma. Come and see us again sometime. We've got great food here, good company. And when we get down your way, I know where to go for a nice night on, what night do you meet?
The second and fourth Thursday.
Second and fourth Thursdays. Great. Good club. And for Dan and Shelley, congratulations as our new members. And Ricky, let's give them all. Tomorrow, for those of you who are like Michael and myself with Rick and Company, we're going to do some bell ringing to raise some money for Salvation Army. Saturday, we have our dinner. Next week, we've got the Gap coming up. Lots of things around the corner. Thank you all for coming. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.